Hello, I'm Rachel Jones for the Finance News Network. Joining me from Caussia Therapeutics today is MD and CEO Dr. James Garner. James, welcome back to the network.
Rachel, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Now, Caussia licenses drug development candidates with the aim of taking them through to commercialization. How's progress?
Rachel, that's right. We set up our company really to focus on one very specific thing, which was to take great quality, promising drugs that didn't fit with their original company's strategy and to build value around those. And our first drug was licensed in from Genentech, which of course is the world's most successful cancer drug developer. And we've taken that into now a phase 2 clinical trial. We're getting some fantastic data out of it. And frankly, it's looking so exciting for us that we've really been focusing around that for the last year or two. So some of those ambitions to continue broadening the portfolio have taken a little bit of a back seat for now. We've just got so much on our hands with Paxalovid. But I think in the medium term, we'd like to get back to some of those growth aspirations.
Thanks, James. And before we talk about your portfolio, can you tell us about your recently announced phase 2 interim results for Paxalovid?
Yeah, so we reported some data just recently, and it's looking really promising. We've focused on two measures of the efficacy of the drug. The first of them is a measure called progression-free survival, and this really gives us a measure of, does the drug delay growth of the tumor? And on that score, it looks really promising. We're seeing a progression-free survival of about 8.5 months for our drug versus 5.3 months for the existing standard of care, the only existing drug. So it looks like there's something like several months of advantage in there. But the really big news is we've also been able to report some survival data. So this tells us essentially, does the drug extend life for patients with this very, very aggressive cancer. And on that score, we've seen a figure of 17.7 months versus 12.7 months, the existing drug, which is a fantastic result. That's a knockout. So we're really excited by this data. It's still, the study's still ongoing. We're still learning more. But I think if these kind of numbers hold up, we're going to have a very promising drug candidate on our hands.
And now let's talk about your portfolio in a little more detail. Can you tell us a bit more about the glioblastoma candidate Paxalovid?
Yes, so glioblastoma is the most common and the most aggressive form of brain cancer. It's about half of all primary brain cancers, and it's got one of the worst prognoses of any cancer. So even with best available treatment, patients typically pass away within about 12 to 15 months of diagnosis. There's only one drug out there for these patients. It's a drug called temozolomide. It's been around for 20 years or more, so it's really quite an old drug now. And the trouble with temozolomide is it only works for 1/3 of patients. So for 2/3 of the patients, there is no effective drug available. Those are the patients we're targeting with Paxalovid. So they're patients with a really, really aggressive cancer who have no other treatment options. That's what we're trying to answer with our program.
Thanks, James. And can you tell me about the Paxalovid trials in other brain cancers?
Yeah, this has been one of the most exciting things about the drug is glioblastoma remains our primary focus. But there's a lot of potential applications of the drug in other forms of brain cancer, and indeed in other cancers in other parts of the body. And so we've had several trials going on now for a little while. Some have been underway for a year or more, looking at the drug in a childhood brain cancer and in cancer that's spread from other parts of the body to the brain. And what's been great is most of those studies are primarily funded by the hospitals that are running them. So it's a great value for money option for us. And we're expecting to see some data out of at least a couple of those studies in coming months. And I think potentially that really starts to give us access to a much, much broader group of patients, which of course will be very exciting news.
And now let's talk about the ovarian cancer candidate, Cantrixil.
We've been developing Cantrixil now for a better part of 2 years in ovarian cancer. We've been running a phase 1 study, that's the first round of human trials, looking at this drug in patients with very, very advanced ovarian cancer. And we've similarly been seeing some great results there. We've had so far 3 patients that have shown either a complete response or a partial response. Now, complete response is when we really eradicate all trace of the cancer. A partial response is where there's still some left, but we dramatically shrink the tumors. So we're getting very, very clear data that this drug works. I think we've got some complex strategic decisions to make about it as the year progresses, and we're talking to potential partners that could help take that drug forward alongside us. So hopefully there'll be lots more to say as the year progresses from the Cantrixil program.
Thanks, James. And to a question now that investors are asking every company, especially those conducting trials, what impact is COVID-19 having?
I think we're fortunate in some ways that cancer studies tend to be the last studies affected in these sort of situations. Obviously, patients with cancer can't just come back in 6 months. Their care has to continue. And we're also fortunate that our two main studies, both the Paxlovid study and the Cantrixil study, are fully recruited. They're not looking for new patients. So we're hopeful that we'll see only very modest impacts. But like every company, we're watching this carefully. We've put in place a range of mitigation plans, and we have to see how things unfold.
Now let's talk about the financials. Can you provide us with some details?
We just raised 7.2 million Australian dollars from in an oversubscribed institutional placement, and that's put us in really good shape now to see through the ongoing COVID-19 uncertainty and to progress our work through probably 3 to 4 more data readouts over the course of calendar 2020. So we're very, very fortunate that we've had great support from our investors, and I think that puts us in very, very robust condition now to weather the storm. So we're lucky that we can now just get on with the business of drug development, look at progressing the clinical trials, and look at reporting more data as it comes through during the year.
Dr. James Garner, thanks so much for the update.
Rachel, it's a pleasure. Thanks very much indeed.